You're listening to The People's Pitch, the official podcast of Minneapolis City Soccer Club, brought to you by footballstadiumprince.com. Let's start the show.
And as I talked about just a couple minutes ago, as Joe Watt stands over this one, he appears to be the one taking the penalty here. This is a huge confidence booster if you're Duluth.
Worst case scenario for City right here.
And it stopped!
Yes!
And it stopped!
Totally redeems himself.
Matt Elder redeeming himself. Oliver with the right foot. The shot is
goal! Oliver!
Justin Oliver will break the scoreless tie. And it is 1-0 Minneapolis City. Is Hutton now on the offense with the left foot.
Goal!
It is now 2-0 Minneapolis
yes!
City.
Good finish.
Nick Hutton taking his quick victory lap.
One is in the books and two more games are on the way, Crows fans. This is the People's Pitch Podcast, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City Soccer Club. I'm your host, John, and back with me in the seat is the voice of Minneapolis City Game Day, the Nate Morales. Nate, man, welcome back. How are things?
Things are good, John. Things are good. After Sunday's kickoff, really like all that uncertainty and the unknowns of the offseason are totally behind us. We just got to sit back and enjoy some soccer this week. It was awesome. We finally have this game to talk about on the show, as well as previews of our first road game to Illinois this season, and of course the big friendly as a former foe rolls into Edor Nelson this Saturday. But let's get started on the recap for the game on Sunday versus RKC Third Coast. When we looked at the schedule in the preseason, we really couldn't have identified a tougher team to start it off with than RKC. This Third Coast team has done nothing but beat us for 2 years, and even though last year's games were a little closer, we knew that this would be a true test of Justin Oliver and Tudor Flintum's system. Let's go through the starting roster, then we'll get into the recap. First up, goalkeeper in net, making his first appearance as a Crow, Nolan Meyer. Our center back trio was Jonah Garcia, the veteran, Captain Nick Kent, and Cole Schrage, new to the team this year. In front of them was Joey Tawa posting up as central defensive mid. He's a he's a familiar face. He's been around. He's only 23. Feels like he's been around the club for a really long time. But he is, kind of at his peak now, you could argue. And then in front of him at center mid, Ian Shaw. And then in front of him, number 10, the attacking midfielder, Jackson Kirsch of Drake. Out wide on the wings, we had Ondieki Mena and Bernard C.V. Rule. And then we had two strikers up top. We started with Shea Bechtel and Preston Kipnusu. And that ends up adjusting, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. The bench was Sessler, Roach, Elijah Fearing. So we had two goalkeepers on the bench, probably just for roster reasons. We didn't have that many guys in town right now. We had Elijah Fearing, Jared Heck, Andrew Heckenlabel, Tomas Mena, Andrew Holmes, and Otis Anderson. So from the jump, it's easy to say that RKC was causing issues for us down the wings, with Prado, number 2, especially driving at goal through Ondi, turning him around a couple times and catching Ondi out of position. That led to a foul in a really dangerous area and an early goal because of it. Free kick put into the box from the left side, and the sun is bright. We always say at Edor Nelson Field that these, around the summertime, these later kickoffs, it's like we definitely don't want to start the game with the sun in our eyes, even though it's been really rare at Edor Nelson Field that we've seen an error caused by the sun. In this case, it was clear that Nolan Meyer thought he had a beat on the ball, called for it, and it hit his hands, and he must have just misjudged when the ball was going to get to him, because it looked like he came down with it, but instead that ball was on the ground, and the RKC center back, Juan Schneider, met it with a little bit of a back heel, and in it went. 1-0. Crows are down with only a minute or two had been played. So down 0-1. Bernard and Andy switched sides, and I think the team got their feet under them. Bernard had an easier time dealing with Prado. They were able to get forward a little better. I think they played RKC well, and they found Preston Kipnusu forward quite a bit in the early part of the first half, which led to a big opportunity for the Crows going up a man. So RKC goal scorer Juan Schneider had his hands full with Preston Kipnusu and the Crows offense for, a little bit from the get, right? Kipnusu's a big guy, and I think Kipnusu was trying to go at him. And so Juan Schneider ended up earning a yellow in only the 9th minute. Clear stoppage of the attack, flashed the yellow, and he was committing foul after foul, not just on Kipnusu, but on across the Crows' front line. And calls of you can hear it from the audience, how many were ringing out, right? Eventually he earns his second yellow. In that foul, it looked to me like during another physical battle, Kipnusu on Juan Schneider. It was actually Kipnusu that fouled Juan Schneider, and I feel like the ref was running over, ready to call that foul until he saw Juan Schneider lash out with a kick in retaliation, and that the ref adjusted his call, showed him the yellow, showed him the red, and Juan Schneider was shown the door. So the wingers, I noticed at the end of the second half, switched back, and the Crows continued to try to take advantage of this man advantage, but Prado again burns Andy on the near side of the field with extra time running out, and Prado rips a shot past Meyer that unbelievably puts the shorthanded visitors up 2-0 heading into the locker room. And you had to think, as the Crows go in up a man but down 2 goals, they were gonna hear it from Justin and Tudor, and some changes were going to be made.
I think you're absolutely right, Nate. There was an eye on changes in the first half, and I thought that Coach Oliver was going to be quick to the hook, which we've seen before. But in this instance, there were players up and warming up in probably about the 30th minute of the first half. And it wasn't a situation where the guys that were out there weren't performing, but I knew that Coach Oliver and Coach Flintham were looking forward to adjusting personnel to exploit the 10 men RKC in that second half.
And changes indeed came on. Starting the second half, Jared Hecht came on, and that meant he pushed Shea Bechtel out to the wing as Andy Mena and Bernard Rule were taken off at the half. And we also got our first look at Heckenlabel, who was, rumor has it, straight off the plane.
This had some very much so Sam Forsgren 2016 coming off of the plane from the Euros vibes to it, didn't it?
Like coming from St. Louis University direct to Minneapolis to play for Minneapolis City on Sunday. And that, I think those moves paid off early in the second half. Kipnusu able to get on the end of a forward ball, and he drew contact from the RKC keeper, Nicholas Diana, in the box, and it was Jackson Kirsch that stepped up, buried the PK, and at this point, it's clear whatever changes Justin and Tudor made, they're working. They're working, because shortly thereafter, only 3 minutes later, Crows still on the attack. Joey Tawa delivers a delicious corner into the box with the help of the caddies in the corner from Noonan Golf, and Kipnusu blasts it home off his head. And I want to say something about Preston Kipnusu, because in the first half, it looked like he was a little bit put out by being played physically and by the need for him to play physically. He was throwing his hands up when he'd get bodied off the ball, giving up on the play, complaining about contact a couple times, really kind of like dishing it out but not taking it. And that all changed in the second half. Full credit to Preston Kipnusu. He came out looking to make some noise. He was throwing himself into contact. He was attacking the ball in the air. And I tell you, if we get this guy for the full 90 every game, I think we've got a threat the likes of which we've never had, right, John?
Absolutely, Nate. I think you mentioned it, in your description of Preston, just being the fact that he's 6'4", 230 pounds, has speed. It looked as if he had some wiggle in when he had the ball on his feet, and the ability to kind of try to turn defenders, being brought down on what should have been that guy's third yellow card, before he ultimately got his fourth yellow card and was sent off. But you know, having that threat of going over the top to that big of a target striker who can beat you with pace, but ultimately can dominate you in the air as well, and the willingness to to bang back and forth with the defender. I think some of the things that you were talking about with him throwing his arms up, were a little bit more of like kind of milking into the contact he was getting by a guy that was already on his yellow card, but also too, like, first time playing with a lot of these guys. You can be frustrated as a striker, and you want the striker to be frustrated when they're not getting the service that they truly desire. And it just kind of all goes back to passion. Kipnusu once again was a dangerous threat and almost struck on his own as he bodied his way to the ball, took a nice first touch in the box around goalkeeper Diana. Diana ends up ultimately clearing him out, earns himself a yellow card, and another chance for the Crows to battle their way back into a potential 3 points, which on the conversion of the penalty kick by Jackson Kirsch looked as if that narrative was written, Nate, but what ultimately happened was not it. But the Crows being down 2-0 at at the beginning of the second half, definitely not a scoreline that either coach or any of the players felt they deserved or they felt that they earned. But it was the reality of the situation. Ultimately, being up a guy, being down 2 goals is not where you want to be. But they did a great job battling back, and I think it was by and large on the shoulders of Preston Kipnusu. But we know what happens, Nate. Sometimes soccer sucks. And indeed it did, as RKC did what they do best, and that was even despite being up, being down a man, excuse me, they had sustained bouts of possession in the Crows' defensive third, a lot of bodies kind of making off the ball runs, a lot of confusion for the Crows defense on tracking runners. And that ultimately led to the game tying goal at the death, pretty much right before stoppage time. And a really well placed goal by RKC with the midfielder. I believe it was Pendleton. Um, Sorry if I got that wrong, but he took an excellent first touch in traffic, a second touch to beat a defender, and then just calmly slotted a ball into the opposite corner. And Nolan Meyer really didn't have a chance at it. Final thoughts on this one, Nate, for me is, I mean, the Drake guys were impressive. I mean, top down, whether you're looking at Kipnusu, Jackson Kirsch, or Shragi, like each individually on the ball, whether it was any of the three phases that they were playing in, offense, midfield, or defense, uh, rock solid decision making was sound. I think that if you're looking at a man of the match, you're splitting hairs between whether it is Jackson Kirsch, who got a brace in his debut, which we found out is the first ever debutante to get a brace, which is awesome. But and then you look at Preston Kipnusu, who essentially set up 2 goals and scored a third, drawing those 2 penalties. I think that it was a really good bright spot for those three, but ultimately for the entire team. I think that as the game kind of went on, you saw the Crows kind of have more moments as a group than RKC did, but what RKC had over the Crows was the fact that they had more in volume individual moments that they won. So those 1v1 situations they were able to break down and be dangerous, and where we had to do more of the direct traffic, going over the top. I think defensively, the team will definitely want to get better. But if you're starting the season off against a team like RKC that was kind of our danger team, which you're looking at the schedule release and you're like, oh great, we have to face the team we haven't beaten in 4 opportunities. Especially, it could have been worse, could have been on the road, but at home, you look at that as kind of a trap game for the beginning of the season, knowing that you don't have all the players in house yet. People are still traveling back, and all the excuses you can come up with. But I think that despite some of the pitfalls that we had, that first early goal probably was avoidable. Battling back from 2 down, being up a guy, all the things that could have gotten way worse, I think were obviously minimized by the collective group from Drake. Not to speak light of how everyone else played, but those three guys definitely stand out. And I think that this end of season rubber match is going to probably be one that could make or break the playoff push for whoever doesn't come out on top. Now that that one is over, the boys hit the road for the first time this season Thursday, or today, if you're listening to this on Thursday, to face Riverlight FC at Spartan Athletic Park on the campus of Aurora University at 7 p.m. So, quick recap of who Riverlight is. They are obviously located in Aurora, Illinois. And in 2024, in the Heartland Conference, they had a record of 7 wins, 3 draws, and 2 losses. Good for 26 goals for, 20 against, totaling 24 points. Just sliding them into third place behind Peoria City, which was a very strong team and once again is a strong team in 2025. They have Riverlight has played one match in the 2025 season. It was a home opener with a win of 5-3 over the Chicago City Dutch Lions, which sees them start the early Heartland Conference season at the top of the table. They, just like every team we face for the first time through, we don't really know who they are, what to expect. But we have to believe that with Riverlight finishing third place in a conference last season with the likes of Des Moines Menace and Peoria City, only missing out on a playoff spot by 3 points was pretty impressive. So you have to, read through the tea leaves and assume that they're going to have another stable of quality, much like what we saw from RKC, for example. But streaming details for this game, head on over to Sports Engine Play. I believe that is the new partnering sponsor for all game day streams for USL League Two. So you head on over to Sports Engine Play before the game time. I recommend maybe 10 to 15 minutes early and search for Minneapolis City Soccer Club, and you will find a link and go Crows. This Thursday's match is not all that is on the slate for Minneapolis City. On Saturday, up next will be a match that carries great meaning for longtime fans. It's a matchup that has been ups and downs, each match bringing its own narrative that adds to the lore of this rivalry. This year, there's less at stake, but that doesn't mean it'll be any easier for the Crows as they take on Duluth FC of the NPSL. As far as all-time stats go, Minneapolis City holds an edge with 6 wins, 4 losses, and 2 draws, leading the edge in goals for with 27 and goals against with 19. The biggest Duluth win, Nate, was a 2-0 home win in 2022. And then, of course, everyone's favorite scoreline. The biggest win for City was a 6-1 away scoreline in 2021. When these two teams lock horns, you can toss everything previous out the window. Historically speaking, they don't like us and we don't like them. And that is really what you want out of a true rival. And I would expect nothing less. But the most important thing is that when both of these teams do face each other, the soccer is good, the energy is high, and it elevates the match for the fans, which is really what you want to put on display. The big friendly, as it's been dubbed this year, likely will see a heavy MC2 game day roster, seeing that the USL2 team will be on that quick turnaround from their trip to Riverlight. But I would be hard pressed to believe that there aren't a few first team members joining, especially if you think about the fact that there are some guys that might need a few game minutes before they fully integrate themselves into the USL 2 squad. I was able to have a brief conversation with MC2 headman Josh Roy, and he noted that there are some serious young talented players that will be featuring on Saturday. A couple to note: Colin Vilm, who had a fantastic season last year in the UPSL for Coach Roy on the wing, but will be moving into more of an attacking center midfield role. You have defender Sam Keating, who was always rock solid on the defensive side of the ball, but from a wingback perspective was very, very involved in the attack throughout the year. And then up top, you have AJ Welge, who possesses just a bottle full of speed, just waiting to open that bottle up on defenders, and really really good in the 1v1 and can create for himself, but also off the header from balls that might be coming in from someone like Sam Keating. And then McCade Schatzko, who is, from what I was told, a hulking yet serious baller at the back line from a center back possession, who's new to the squad this year, which we're excited about. So regardless of the fact that this might be a MC2 heavy roster, I believe that it will still be a seriously competitive match. Obviously, the stakes get higher when Duluth rolls into town, but as we know, Nate, specifically from doing futures winter all winter and keeping an eye and a pulse on that, but also knowing the returning players that are coming back from last year. Like, just because it might be heavy MC2, it does not mean that this roster is not packed with quality. And I truly do believe this one's going to be a really great matchup. The game itself, 7 p.m. Edor Nelson Field. It is MTA night, so being an MTA coach, really awesome to have the light blue out there in full force. You can get tickets online at mplscitysc.com for that game. Obviously, you can get season tickets, and if you already have your season ticket, we'll get you into this one. And that will do it for this week's show, friends. We have to give a shout out to our wonderful show sponsor, footballstadiumprints.com. Our friends over at footballstadiumprints.com are always expanding their soccer-focused t-shirt designs, prints, and more. And don't forget to use the code CROWS10 for 10% off everything you purchase. And as a reminder, all orders ship right from the United States, so no pesky international shipping charges. As a reminder, Minneapolis City is a 501c3, so you can feel good that your membership doubles as a charitable donation to a club that does good. Memberships for 2025 season are still available, as are single game tickets. So head on over to mplscitysc.com and get yours today. We know you have thoughts. Let us know what you want us to cover, who we should interview, what topics we should go over. Connect with us on Instagram at People's Pitch Podcast, and you can even email us if you have any questions or topics you want us to cover on this show, mcscpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, you can also connect with the club on Twitter X at MPLSCitySC. But hit us up first so we can get you some show content. And that is all for this week. I am John. That was Nate. Let's go get 3 points down the land of Lincoln. And of course, send Duluth packing up 35. Until next time, you got hoofed.